is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. We're here to recap Week 7 of the NFL season. A lot to talk about, a lot of great games, a lot of games which I missed because I was attending the Cleveland Browns Cincinnati Bengals game, Battle of Ohio, Part 1, and we'll talk about that. There were some things that happened in that game as well. We got to talk about the Super Bowl rematch, Chiefs 49ers. Got to talk about the Sunday night game, Jets and Steelers. A lot of good football. But before we get into it, Matt, Theo, beautiful Sunday night. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing well. I'm actually glad you were at that Cleveland game, Blaiden. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it will.
Yeah.
It's good that we had an on-the-ground reporter after what happened.
It was an event. I'll say that much.
But I'm doing pretty well. Obviously, the Packers notched a win today, which we'll talk about.
Lucky shot from a bum happens.
He tried a couple lucky shots at the end there.
Yes, he did. We will get into that.
We will get into that. Jordan loves gunslinging ways, but yeah, it's been pretty good. Cammy's mom was in town, so we went to a winery on Saturday and then ate some really good pizza after that. And
give me your top 5 wines right now, Theo.
I like a good... See, I don't know anything about wine. Like, when I go to this Italian place that me and her always are kind of frequenting, I always get the Seeker because I can pronounce it. That's what the wine is called. It's not called, like...
Pinot Grigio
and... Pinot Grigio or... I mean, Cabernet, I know, but, like, they all have names. I'm like, I don't know what any of this shit says, so let me get the Seeker. Okay. And let's see, what I liked Pinot Noir at the winery.
Okay.
I got some of that. I like anything that's soaked in a barrel and kind of has like a woody dryness to it. Give me that barrel tasting shit.
Are you an Italian or a French wine fan?
California.
California.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm an Italian or French fan.
I'm totally fucking
I'm
with
a fan
you.
of the I'm a fan of the Seeker.
He's a fan of the Seeker. Matt,
the Seeker never steered me wrong.
Matt, what's your favorite wine?
I don't have a favorite wine. Blaiden, you might want to hold the mic a little farther away.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's a little buzzy. But you don't have a favorite wine, Matt? Are you more of a beer drinker? Like if you were to I
really wouldn't drink a wine. I really wouldn't do that. I'd probably just have a beer instead or something. Like I don't know,
like a real man, you know.
Yeah, or like I'd like have like a scotch and I'd be like really fucking annoying about it or something, and I'd be like, I'd look at you and I go, and you'd like mispronounce your wine name, and then I'd ask for some like. I'd go to the bartender and I'd ask for a scotch that's like rare that I know they don't have or something. And I would just upstage everybody there. And I'd be like, oh, okay, what do you have on that?
I'm sipping on the Evan Williams these days. Last night we let the Evan Williams talk.
I do have to bring up, though, not to hard change the subject, but it's probably best that you were out and about on Saturday. Because what the hell happened to your Sun Devils, man?
I actually have no idea what happened to them. What did happen to them?
They lost 34.
I know their backup quarterback was in, so.
Maybe it was
excuses.
Maybe it was 24-20 or 24-14.
24-14.
Their backup quarterback like really couldn't do all that much. If I'm
seeing a 50% completion percentage for 100.
Yeah, and it was like a lot of like rolling them out and then throwing something outside, like one read type stuff, and it was like, yeah, okay. And Cincinnati's offense is decent enough where they're going to put up points. Your running back. Scatterbro or whatever, he's good. He crushed
Scatterbo's a monster. Scatterbo's a monster. But you guys you seem to limit him only 75 yards on 17
Yeah, but
carries.
He had like a big highlight that I got tagged in, even though we got the dub. So are you? And here's the thing: I almost tweeted something out about it. I almost tweeted out something talking trash, but you have to realize there's so many Cronkite Goonies out there in the sports media world. I could have been banned. I could have been blackballed.
I got shooters. We got shooters out in
Theo Ash has shooters, so I just...
When you see that profile picture of someone like dead center with like the kind of blue checkered background, you know.
Dude, like, yeah,
You're in
I mean,
for some trouble.
Even just the people that like went to school like with you in your class specifically, I mean, my fingers were shaking above the post button on Twitter.
You don't want the Roosevelt Point crew of Carson and Logan and CF Budge and
no,
the whole gang.
This is reminding me, not to change the subject again though. You chipped your tooth. And in the same way, I almost, like, you chipped it, and I was like typing up a devilish response or whatever. And then I read, you said somewhere, you're like, yeah, it's the part of my tooth that's, like, not real. I, like, chipped it earlier when I was a kid or something.
Yes, this is my
And then I was
secret.
like, I have the exact same thing on one of my front teeth. And if I say something now, obviously I will chip my tooth in the same way off bad luck the next day. So I didn't. So my karma's fine.
Yeah, it's resin that chipped off. It didn't quite just full on break on a fajita, luckily. People were telling, like, did he bite the sizzling hot pan?
Dude, I think that's your teeth are like crumbling out of your mouth. I didn't even think about
It's not
that.
quite
It's like
to
a
that
Tom and
level.
Jerry cartoon. And
It's so sad too because I'm a horrifically bad cook. I'm terrible at it, and the fajitas I was actually proud of. I was like, these actually turned out good.
these?
I made these, and like,
Okay.
I don't know, they just tasted good. Like they weren't burnt or underdone. Like I try to make things and they make me sick. Like I'm a terrible chef. So the fact that I actually made something good, I was proud of. And then like on my last bite, it chipped my tooth off or the enamel off.
That's
Theo,
almost
the
like
fact that
the
you're cooking
Twilight
makes you
Zone.
sick
What was that?
It's kind of like the Twilight Zone episode where the dude gets all the books and then he like breaks his glasses and he can't see. It's like you finally cook and then your teeth fall out of your head and you can't eat.
Pretty much. I also stepped on a pair of glasses today, so that also
You're having a
reminds
rough
me.
go.
Oh man.
I am. I'm low-key having a shitty week. Is now that I think about it.
But your tooth is
What do your
fixed, it
Packers
looks like.
They did.
It
They
did get fixed and it looks great. I could. If you
Yeah,
didn't
it
tell me,
did
I
get
couldn't
fixed.
tell. I can't believe how quick that happened. Actually, I thought you were going to be like.
Out of commission for a while. No, going to the emergency dentist, and they'll get it fixed for you. I mean, I was in the waiting room for a while, but it was partially my own fault because I was trying to get all my insurance shit together, like kind of last minute. But
Nothing
I got
is
it
worse.
fixed, and it looks great. They did a
Oh,
good
you
job.
try to get some medical stuff done or a checkup. Do you know your insurance? No, I got to text my mom.
Like calling my dad a million times trying to get his.
Mom, of course, I waited
He's
until
working,
I
of
was
course.
talking to the lady before I thought, oh yeah, I might need my insurance for this medical procedure. I don't know. Yeah, no, I
They
should
should
have
just-
done that.
Don't they know that we're world famous podcast hosts and that we should
Yeah,
just
they should have
get
said
all of our procedures?
Run an ad. No, shout out Emergency Dental Denver. On the corner of 8th and Colorado.
I've been
If you need a chipped tooth repaired, they fix me up right. So shout out to them. So, but let's talk football.
Let's talk about the
what
one
game-
good thing that's happened to you. Packers versus Texans.
Yes.
There we go.
Your boys get the dub. LFG. What did you think?
Yes, they did get the dub. Matt, I know you watched this one too. Mm-hmm. This is a game I don't think we win with Joe Barry last year is kind of the main thing I thought. It's the most pleased I've been with the defense in a really long time. They held Stroud to a completion percentage of 47.6%, 86 yards passing, 0 touchdowns, passer rating of 58.8. I mean, man, he was a main MVP candidate coming into the week, and I know that their offensive line is rough, but I'm still happy with it. I'm still really happy with it. But there's a lot more to dive into other than just Stroud's stat line. But on its face, just to limit him to that, could not be more pleased.
Yeah, I mean the Packers were coming into this one. You're like, can the defense show any aspect? You're like, all right, it's possibly coming together. It's fair to say that The Texans' biggest problem is far from being Stroud, even in this game with a bad stat line.
For sure.
And they're missing Nico Collins, who, I mean, was having the best season in the league as far as receivers go. And that obviously makes a big deal. So I don't want this to be like a negative thing about them or whatever. You have to take it with a grain of salt. But a good performance with a grain of salt from the Packers, not a bad thing. The pressure that they got, sending some heat, pulling guys back. You know, Gary was getting some push. Like it was nice to see how much that's them improving versus how much it's the Texans' offensive line being bad.
Yeah.
We'll see as it goes forward. But it was nice to see overall. And even if Mixon was able to break off a couple of ones, I thought it was a pretty good performance overall.
For sure. Halfley got the first game ball LaFleur gave out, and I thought it was 100% deserved. They pulled out all the tricks to get after Stroud today, and the offensive line was absolutely in hell. It was the thing you were most excited about, I think, with Halfley coming in. Some of the blitzes that he designed at Boston College were creative, but he's kind of departed a little bit from what he was at Boston College. Like, he was a six-man pass rusher, I'd say. Like, he really added bodies. This game wasn't so much like the full-on blitz as it was the sim pressures, the stunts that he drew up. I think about Patrick Queen, like, running over the left guard on a stunt, like physically just pushing him, and that's his only goal, and then freeing Matabike on some of the loops. You saw a lot of pressures from Eric Wilson that were like that from some of the mugged up linebackers.
Mm-hmm.
And people were just being turned loose by the offensive line all day. Holy cow, they cannot defend a stunt. They cannot defend a sim pressure. It's so brutal to watch.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's felt like everything that the Packers tried just worked.
Yeah.
And it's nice. It's like what they were trying was like fine. Like, it was good stuff. It's like, it's nice to see. But at a point when it's just, you know, especially the one with McKinney where he just comes totally free, and then you look out and you're like, dude, they're rushing three. The people get six guys back to block. Like, nobody's getting there. It's like, that's not good. But Eric Wilson was getting downhill and making a bunch of plays. I was really happy to see that.
Too.
Shout out the legend.
Is he Cincinnati or Ohio State?
Cincinnati.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
And then like you said, Evan Williams had a nice game, and
dude, he's
a
real player. Like, I was kind of clickbaiting in my first video, or that they find an all-pro in the fourth round. Like, he looked like it against the Rams, but it was also against Kobe Parkinson, and it was just his first game. He has continued it for 3 straight weeks now. He made a game-saving stop on a 2-point conversion, huge tackle for loss there. They end up winning by 2. He guarded Mixon, like, leaking out for a vertical off play action. Just last week against the Cardinals, like, they tried to pull it on him in the read option game, and he was one-on-one with Kyler, like, totally shut him down. Like, he is seeing the game so well right now. His tackling has gotten better. I thought that was the one weak point from the Rams game, but I don't think he missed a single tackle today. He forced a fumble last week. I mean, the play of the secondary was a real highlight today. Tank Dell dropped a pass in the end zone early, which was pretty brutal.
That was bad.
Yeah, but overall, I thought, you know, Stroud was holding the ball, and he escaped the pressure plenty. Like, Gary got home on some free hitting things, and there were plenty of free hitters all day, and Stroud would kind of bail out and escape them a lot of the time. And he was looking downfield, and there really wasn't much there. The other thing I thought was embarrassing about the Texans offense, though, outside of the pass protection, picking up any kind of stunt, Slowick and his second and long runs, which has been a constant problem for him since he's become the Houston Texans offensive coordinator. I looked it up because I think he had 7 today. I should have written it down. And I think, 7 runs on passing downs. It's a lot. It happens. That doesn't sound like a lot, 7, but it is a lot. Teams with more are like the Giants, who have Daniel Jones at quarterback, or like the Jets last year with Zach Wilson had a lot of them. To have like that many with CJ Stroud at quarterback is head scratching. And at the end of the game, on the one where they scored a field goal to go up, and then Love drove down the field at the end. They probably had 4 negative rushing attempts on early downs on that drive. I mean, they had one, and then they overcome it with the amazing Stroud third and long pass to Xavier Hutchinson, where he bailed out of the pocket again and actually found him in tight coverage against Jair Alexander. So he converts that miraculous third down. They run it again on first, -2 yards. It's 2nd and 12. I mean, you got to score a touchdown. You don't want. The Packers don't have Narveson anymore, all right? You don't want them to just have a field goal to win it. You got to put it in the end zone. 2nd and 12, they run the football again. And I think that really bailed the Packers out. Like, take it out of the game, out of the hands of C.J. Stroud, running on a pass down when there's no reason to drain the clock. The Packers had all their timeouts. And I looked it up. Since the beginning of last season, Houston has lost 40 points of EPA running on passing downs, which is 31st in the league. Only the Giants have lost more estimated points running on passing downs.
And you really have to wonder how many points the Giants have missed out on not passing.
Yeah. So it's bad.
I totally agree. I will say it's tough, and I think part of it you can blame on the offensive line for being just so weak today where you're scared to put it in the air. Mm-hmm. But I disagree with run and then throw short of the sticks. Pretty bad here. I think, if you just run, you're not going to be able to get the clock down nearly enough to not give the Packers a chance at a field goal. Mm-hmm. Not really, man. You're going to give them a minute 40 back, even with no timeouts. That's forever. But at the same time, it would have been nice to take the final timeout at least, so throwing over the middle of the field feels a little bit more nerve-wracking, a little bit more limiting. And the Packers, how it ended up, the Packers didn't even really try that hard getting down the field. It felt like, dude, they were taking forever at the line. They had zero fear of them getting down in the field goal range and then running out of time and not being able to get to the line and spike it because they had that timeout. So I think they sort of hit the worst of both worlds in that scenario. I can understand being kind of passive, even though probably the wrong thing to do totally and fully. Maybe on 2nd and 12 you say, okay, we're probably not going to pick this one up running. We need to throw. Fine, because you want to see if you can just get it on the ground and keep the clock churning and burn timeouts. But what they drew up there was just not good enough for sure.
Yeah, and after they almost lost the Bills game because of just terrible clock management at the end when they threw it and got the pass interference, or not the pass interference, the intentional grounding that sent it back. Just in general, I think communication on the line of scrimmage. I think it's also fair to point at the offensive coordinator for that. And this Texans team in general, it feels, obviously they're hurt, like you mentioned, Matt, and I don't want to get too doom and gloom about them, but the reason, if you're a Texans fan, that you just feel bad, like you're maybe worse than the other top teams in the AFC by a bit, it's just because of silly discipline stuff. I feel like they're leading the league in penalties, and it was another brutal day today. Communication on, again, you have the bodies to block 2 people when you've got 3 people, right? You've got the bodies to pick somebody up if there's a safety coming in pass protection. Just get in front of them. It's not a talent issue at all. It's a know what's coming at you issue, and they just don't seem to have that right now. And yeah, man, and then the coaching errors at the end of the game, and they didn't challenge that backwards pass that Romo was yelling at them to challenge, and then the rules analyst said, oh yeah, they should have challenged that. They don't get the flag on the ground, they don't get that communicated, and then the Packers go up tempo and gash them for a touchdown. So just I think the Texans could certainly they could get it. They're still contenders to me. They could get hot at the right time once Nico Collins is back. You see these kinds of issues work out over the course of the season. It happened to the Packers last year, but it's still
it's game 7. It's a little okay.
Yeah, and Stroud could get hurt. That's the other thing. Yeah. When there's free hitters running at him and your offensive linemen are falling down for no reason, that's another thing that puts the season in peril is Stroud is absorbing this much contact and under pressure this much. You worry about it.
These
Yeah,
sound like very
absolutely.
similar issues that we were talking about last week with the Patriots, and I saw it again this week, watching them play the Jags. Staying on the topic of the Texans, it's just like you cannot do this thing where you put yourself in 3rd and long and then be like, okay, quarterback, go save us, and then run a bunch of routes short of the sticks. Like it's just the most ugly, inefficient offense imaginable, and the Patriots do it constantly. They didn't do it on their first drive in today's game, but every other drive, that was basically all they did.
What's frustrating about Houston is like no team has the horses that they do to just go out there and throw the ball like all the time. Like they should throw the ball more than any other team in the NFL, or right up there with them. They have C.J. Stroud, and they have, I know Collins was out this game, but this is a problem for them all the time. They have Collins and Tank Dell and Diggs. And just for them to go into situations like that, like you said, Theo, and to burn points, burn opportunities, letting somebody other than Stroud and those guys cook, it stinks, even though Mixon had a good day today. The other thing I want to bring up from this game, though, if you don't have anything.
I have nothing out of I'd like to talk about Jordan Love and the Packers offense a little bit, because this has been more about the defense.
I said this on TikTok, but I really agree with it. People are like, where's the gunslingers? Dude, right in front of you.
Jordan Love is
this guy
crazy.
right here. He is a psycho. He had a little bit of everything in this performance, didn't he? He had an interception where he just like totally missed a guy. Terrible, all on him.
Yeah.
Then he had a beautiful throw down the sideline, perfectly placed. He had a touchdown where he needed to beat the safety and rocket it over to the middle. Nailed it. Beautiful. And then he had an interception where he got pressured and ill-advisedly like threw it behind this guy into double coverage. Like he does a little bit of everything. And I think not that this is a serious take about it, dude. I think like people look at Flacco, they're like, they love Flacco. I think you have to like be like 35 or over for people to like that type of play style. Because if you're younger than that, people are just like mad at you for the picks. But there's plenty of guys who are balling like that now, man. It's just like you just say Jordan Love has a bozo gene. You don't say, oh, he's an epic gunslinger, because he's not old enough yet. You can't be nostalgic about Jordan Love yet, but eventually you will be.
That's so
Jordan
facts. No, at some point it switches. There's a certain age where you go from interceptions are no longer cool, or interceptions become cool, and sacks no longer become cool. But like when you're young, I feel like it's sacks are forgivable, interceptions are not.
There needs to be some sort of formula or something. But yeah, Jordan Love
29.
He's an adventure every single week. I love that. Like, it was like 3rd and 16, and they're on like their own 3-yard line in this game. And I love that LaFleur still is like, we're going to drop back 5 steps and see what happens. Like there's really no leash on him at all in some of these situations that they get themselves into. And you just never know what you're going to see on any given drop back. Like the good outweighs the bad, and it did in this game. But yeah,
but
like,
it shouldn't have to be like that all of the time.
You'd rather him avoid the like just boneheaded interceptions. Like I'd rather it be like Rodgers when you got all the cool plays and none of the interceptions. But I mean, I guess I'll take the aggressiveness overall is what I'll say right now. Like against the Vikings, it was a good example. It was even more turned up to absolutely everything. And he cooked. Like he had 400 yards. He threw a bunch of big plays. He just turned the ball over way too much. These last 2 weeks, I think he's dialed it in a little bit more. But yeah, the INTs and just on the game-winning drive,
the throw down the field was just crazy, dude. That was like my favorite play of the game. That was my favorite play all week, dude. He let it fly for like no reason, man. He was just throwing it.
Oh my god!
Dude.
At the final drive, what was flashing through my head was every Tom Brady game-winning drive I've ever seen. I'm like, all you need to do to have a game-winning drive is just check it down, and everybody is getting depth because they're expecting you to throw. And I've seen so many Tom Brady wins where he just doesn't throw a pick on the final drive. He like holds it for 5 seconds. Everybody gets depth, and then he like dumps it off to James White or whoever, and they run three of those plays, and they're in field goal range. And that's like that's all you need to do is like throw these checkdowns to Tucker Kraft. First throw, it like zips right through the middle linebacker's hands, like bounces off of him right into the hands of the safety, who also drops it. I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. And then he dumps it off to Tucker Kraft, and it works. I'm like, yes, just do that like 3 more times and we'll be in field goal range. They hit it like a slant to Dobbs. I'm like, yes, just short throws. It's working. We're getting in close to the red line. And then off his back foot, he just throws this rainbow true 50-50 ball to Reed in the back of the end zone. It's like, no, that's the exact wrong thing that I was looking for. But he got him there, I guess. And he did hit some sick throws to I can't say enough good things about Tucker Kraft. That one between the two safeties and Kraft laid out for it. Beautiful.
Get his counting stats up. We're calling him elite.
He's elite. He's too elite to get his counting stats up. He's like Kittle.
Too elite to get his counting stats up.
He's too elite for counting stats. They need him blocking. But maybe we survived. Go ahead.
I was going to say maybe we got to try to transfer his blocking like prowess into receiving yards, like hypothetical.
He spent his VC wrong.
It converts into like 900 receiving yards, bro. So he's really sitting on like, don't worry.
We definitely need a yards generated from blocking stat.
Oh my god! Assisted yards in the NFL.
It's like
he's been the escort on a couple of long end rounds. I know that he'd be leading
every
the
time,
tight ends.
Dude, I swear to God, and he's just like he's such a bulldozer. Like if he's right, like you cannot get him off of his line, man.
He's such a great yak threat. I know this is a couple weeks ago, but in the game against the Rams, I had my friend over. He was a Broncos fan.
Yes.
And he hadn't seen Tucker Kraft. He wasn't familiar with Tucker Kraft's game because he's a Broncos fan and he wasn't watching the Packers. And they throw it to Kraft and he catches it, and there's like no one on the screen with him, but he's still like 40 yards away from scoring. And I look to Kevin and I say, he's going to score a touchdown here probably. And that's what he did. He like stiff armed 2 people and scored. And then again, like later, he caught it again. I turned to him and I'm like, he's going to score again here. And that's what he does. Like the
one that he had,
he's just a beast.
On like he caught it on like the 8. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't that game, but it was.
This was against Minnesota, I think.
There was one where he caught it on like the 8, and it's like he doesn't have any momentum, and there's like 4 defenders. It's like it's probably just not like. And he got a little bit out of him, like okay, he's falling forward, and then it's like nope, he's just in the end zone, man.
I think he got the 2-point conversion after he scored too.
Yeah, octopus.
What?
No, octopus. There was like an article a long time ago about this. What should we call when you get the touchdown and the 2-point conversion? Same guy gets both. Octopus.
Mm-hmm. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's when you get all 8 points. Let's see when the last one was.
It's probably that one, man. If that's
it was Tucker Kraft.
When was the last one before him?
Oh, who else? Jacoby Myers had one.
Yes.
Bang.
I watched that one too.
The Packers and Vikings were tied for most octopuses in NFL history with 11 each. And then the Packers took the lead against the Vikings with that Tucker Kraft one. So the Packers.
No, I'm with Matt. Where are you looking this up, Theo?
NFL Octopus Tracker, man.
It's like a scoregami. Cool.
Oh my god.
Octopus clears scoregami because I've never had somebody.
We should be cheering for octopuses the same way that we're cheering for scoregami. They're just as funky. Those are like. That's just like a fun little thing. I guess you can't really track that. It's like it either happens or it doesn't. You know. It's just like so quick. It's bang bang.
There's you could track when it happens, but you can't
not
like
in the
have
same way.
Like the scoregami has like an odds. Like this game has a 50% chance of being a scoregami. No one's going to be like Nick Chubb has a 50% chance of getting an octopus.
Yeah, that's true.
But we should be celebrating them.
We should.
I'm down.
That being said,
Yeah, it wasn't the greatest game from the Packers offense because they had a -3 turnover differential and I don't know, not as many explosive plays as you'd probably like to see, I'd say. They've been more explosive in the other games, but I really like the way they're running the ball right now. Josh Jacobs, even when he gets hit in the backfield, seems to be in really good form right now, breaking a ton of tackles. He got his first receiving touchdown ever today, which I could not believe. Apparently, he held the NFL record for most receptions without a touchdown in NFL history. So there's some more history for you, but that's all I got to say about the Green Bay game. Besides, our punt returners suck. That's one more note.
Oh, dude, that was so funny. We should have.
Oh, my God. Bisaccia, what are we doing? I wish... Just once, I'd like a functional special teams unit, man. I really would.
You're not allowed. Well, let's move on to Matt's Carolina Panthers.
We're not talking about that game. I didn't watch it, dude.
What?
No, I'm joking.
Flipping through my notes, I didn't have notes on that.
I was focused
Game of the
on
year.
Chiefs,
What are you talking?
49ers, and I'm like,
Blaiden, I want to hear
Panthers, and it was a blowout. And I'm like, okay, I'm good.
I have a question for you, as long as we're talking about this window.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously after the game, we get Jameis Winston in the locker room talking about how disrespectful it was for the fans to react the way they did to the Watson injury. And I went back and watched the way they reacted to the Watson injury, and I didn't hear anything but like kind of a low murmur. Like, what was actually happening in the stands? Like, were people like, fuck that guy? Like, what was...
People cheered.
Was there anything unusual about it?
People cheered.
When he went down? Okay.
People were like, oh my... Like, at first it was like... I didn't know what happened at first because it just kind of looked like, it almost looked like he dropped the ball and like dove on it. That's kind of what it looked like from my angle because I was in the corner and they were driving the other way. So I was like, oh shoot, did he like fumble like just randomly? And then he just stayed down. I was like, oh, he's hurt. And then I heard people saying he tore his Achilles. And then they brought the card out and people started cheering. It was like totally insane. I've never seen anything like that for any player in NFL history. Like,
I mean, you could talk.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the Watson situation is kind of unprecedented as it is, but for him to have such a little bit, but for him to have such a vile injury and for people to cheer, I thought that was very. It was very unusual, I will say.
Yeah, you don't see much. You don't see everybody uniting around an Achilles injury usually.
And the memes that came after it on Twitter were.
But yeah, I mean,
something.
in this case, it's 100% justified to be cheering for an Achilles injury. Like, I'll be completely honest with you. It's a bad injury. It's a career ender, but it's not like a scary injury that like. I don't know. The guy messed up his foot. He'll have to rehab it. He'll be out for the year.
He's not dead.
Who gives a shit if Deshaun Watson tears his Achilles? I mean, honestly, like I know that. I don't care about all the hand wringing. Like, coming from Jameis Winston especially is so rich. Like, holy shit, dude! Like, you are the most. He gets away with so much, Jameis Winston, like assaults in an Uber, right? He's still the most beloved player in the league just because he's a dumbass, right? And now he's speaking on a serious situation. The tweet about it was like powerful message, and it's like, what? He's just yapping, dude. He's like, oh, how could anybody boo a man while he's down? It's like, how could you bring him back to the league? You know, like, what do you mean? How could they boo him while he's down?
Yeah,
what does he? What does he owe what do the fans owe him? I mean, he has gotten a $65 million check guaranteed from the organization every single year. He gets an environment where he is completely insulated and protected from any criticism, and he gets people hyping him up constantly. Like, usually when people are sexual predators, they get like put in jail. He's gotten to be the star quarterback for the Browns, got improved at nothing over the years, delivered horrible play, made the franchise an embarrassment, and on top of that, like, his backup is also embarrassing, and you should, like, now that we're talking about it, Jameis, like, what are you doing here anyway? Like, it was crazy.
Jameis did get in. I don't know if you saw that. Jameis got in towards the end
for this game. Like,
he was supposed to be
quarterback.
He
was the emergency third quarterback rule if you have an injury type thing. So he was inactive, but technically not.
Yes, he was dressed for the game, and DTR apparently hurt his finger. So Jameis Winston came into the game, and he led a pretty good touchdown drive for the Browns.
Good for him.
He's definitely the best quarterback that I've seen the Browns have since Baker. Probably.
I mean, since Flacco. I mean,
I think he kind of looked better than Flacco for that one drive. I don't know.
For that one drive.
Yeah, sure. Against the Bengals. For one drive against the Bengals defense, yeah.
Yeah, he's the best you've seen since Flacco, maybe. But I don't know. That was just an embarrassing post-game moment, I think, for him to have allegations, not even, like, credible allegations, right?
Yeah.
Like, no one... It's just frustrating. It's just frustrating to see. It's like the tolerance policy that the NFL has for abusers, and then for a player and multiple players like LeBron, Myles Garrett, not just Jameis Winston, but for like the general consensus to be from athletes to just protect their own instead of being like, you know what? I think fans have they're not dumb. They know what happened, and they have no moral obligation to, you know, act all solemn when they're not, when they're like person who is like derailed their fandom goes down. I think it's totally valid.
You know, my thought.
Go ahead, Matt.
My thought about it was that it's crazy after 1-15 and then 0-16 and the first overall picks and the Baker roller coaster and this big trade and making the playoffs and coming an inch away from being in the AFC Championship game, the Browns are right back to being the team that you would least want to be in the entire NFL. They're dead last, and it's really not even that interesting of a conversation. They're terrible, and their quarterback situation is awful, and their salary cap situation is awful. They're as bad as anybody else in terms of just their future and outlook going forward. There's maybe because the Saints are also looking pretty rough right now, and they're in salary cap trouble. You could argue them. And Carolina's pretty bad too, but at least Carolina's bad trade isn't affecting them going forward as much. And like other bad teams, it's like, well, I'd rather have Trevor Lawrence. I'd rather, you know, the Patriots, like, give me Drake May going forward and what they can build. Like the Browns, I think, are probably in the worst position of any team in the NFL after everything that they've done. And it's mostly off of just a horrifically bad unforced error that they could have easily avoided. Like they totally did it to themselves in the 11th hour. And I've honestly, like, I haven't thought this about the Browns in a long time. Well, maybe I have over the, like, you know, since the Watson trade. But there was a point there I was like, the Browns actually are kind of like making good moves and figuring things out. I hadn't thought about them in the way that I used to think about the Browns in a long time. But they're kind of back to being that.
Yeah, they got their Myles Garrett is becoming Joe Thomas, like just a star on like the worst possible franchise.
Do that to me. Denzel works Joe Hayden, and he's going to go play for the Steelers.
Myles Garrett has had more success than Joe Thomas ever had, I guess, in the playoffs. But still, that's what it's looking like going forward. They're 1-6 now, right? They're the worst record in the league. It's a bad quarterback class. We'll see. They have terrible receivers. Their offensive line needs a full rebuild. Like it's pretty tough.
I was like, on the bright side, at least we'll get Jalen Milroe. But apparently Jalen Milroe was awful this weekend. I didn't watch that game, but
it was not great. He didn't look like he could hang, unfortunately. We'll see how it goes because we watched some of his film against Georgia, and he looked good, but he looked really bad against Tennessee.
I don't know what their path forward is. The hope for the rest of this year is just that I imagine they'll start Jameis next week against the Ravens. I'll be at that game too, and hopefully the offense can look like it can sustain anything. And if it can, then I think the team's okay because the defense still looks good. That's the one shining spot, is that for most of this game the defense was playing well. It's just that we gave them so many shots at like good offense and good offensive field. I mean, we gave them an opening kickoff for 100 yards to the house, right? So it's just like, I think if we could just get stuff figured out on offense, we could be okay.
I mean, the season's over. Like, you're 1-6.
Hold on.
Yeah,
run the table. 10-6. You could.
No. There are going to be some very, very hollow victories these next few weeks, but like the Browns will almost certainly be drafting with a top 5 pick.
Hold on.
Like it's very over.
Hold on. Okay.
What do you mean? Hold on.
Ravens next week, Chargers, Saints, Steelers, Broncos, Steelers, Chiefs, Bengals.
They're bad.
What do you think the percent chance is that they make the playoffs, Blaiden?
Oh, it's got to be like 2.
Yeah, it's like infinitely lower than 2.
Okay.
It's probably like a 1% of 2%.
So you're saying there's a chance?
No. No. But hopefully next week, brother. Hopefully next year. That's...
You know, the defense is still good, so trust.
Looking like the run offense wasn't too great in Nick Chubb's debut either.
The offensive line is really, really bad right now. First of all, that's another thing. The offensive line started out as Jed Wills, Joel Bitonio, Ethan Pochik, Michael Dunn, who is horrible, and Jack Conklin. We get through like the first quarter. Conklin doesn't play. Like, he's just gone. I don't know where he went. I don't know if he got hurt, but he just disappears from the field. Like, there was never a moment where like he was down and like someone came on and like checked. Like, no, he just wasn't on the field anymore, and it was DeJuan Jones. I don't know what happened, but the offensive line was not giving a lot of room. I mean, and I guess I could give some credit to the Bengals defense. They really were keying in on the run whenever Chubb was on the field, but yeah, the offensive line just doesn't look great.
Yeah, there's no information about what injury Conklin had. Even after the game, Stefanski doesn't have any information.
Nothing. No, I mean, it's just like radio silence. He just like went out of the game for no reason. I don't get it. It's very, very bizarre. But yeah, I mean, the Browns are bad. Watson's a universally hated player in Cleveland. When they did the intros to the offense, because they had to introduce Nick Chubb as like for his return, they made sure to sandwich Watson right before Nick Chubb, so that they got all the boos out and then immediately switched over to Chubb, and it was like an eruption of cheers.
It's probably quite the discrepancy between Watson and Chubb.
I posted a video of it. It's very jarring. It's like Deshaun Watson, boo, and then Nick Chubb, eruption of cheers. It's incredible.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I mean, I'm glad Chubb is back. He's quite the success story, of course. But
yeah,
man, my main takeaway from this game is like Deshaun Watson's a sex offender, which is my takeaway from every Browns game. And if he gets hurt and you cheer, like, I get it. I do. I really do. So.
What is up, hotties? You know that when it comes to NFL football, Stay Hot has you covered. But who do you turn to when you need to make smart financial decisions? If your answer is our sponsor, NerdWallet, then you're absolutely right. And if it's not, then allow me to change your mind. Because not only have they spent thousands of hours researching and reviewing over 1,300 financial products, but they have the tools you need to make smarter financial decisions. Looking for a credit card? Go beyond the basic comparisons. Filter for features that matter to you view and read in-depth reviews. Ready to choose a high-yield savings account? Get access to exclusive deals and compare rates, bonuses, and more. House hunting? View today's top mortgage rates for your new home sweet home. So while Stay Hot is your go-to resource for NFL football, make the Nerds your go-to resource for smart financial decisions. Head to nerdwallet.com/learn more. NerdWallet. Finance smarter. Disclaimer, NerdWallet Compare Inc. NMLS 1617539.
You know, there's just something magical about being at a live event, whether it's the energy of a packed stadium, the thrill of a concert, or the laughter at a comedy show. There's truly nothing like it. I remember catching a game last year, one of those last-minute decisions where everything just fell into place. The roar of the crowd, the buzz in the air. It's an experience you just can't replicate anywhere else. And I'm really looking forward to making even more memories this year. That's why I'm so excited to tell you about Game Time, the app that's been a game changer for me. They've had this new feature called Game Time Picks, and trust me, it's a lifesaver. It takes all the hassle out of finding tickets by showing you the best deals on the best seats. So no more endless scrolling or second guessing. Just the other day, I was looking for tickets to an upcoming concert, one I've been dying to see, and I decided to check out Game Time Picks. And let me tell you, the deals they had were unreal. I found a super deal that was just too good to pass up, and within minutes, I had my seats locked in. The app even let me preview the view from my seats before I bought them, so I knew exactly what to expect. But what really impressed me was with how easy the whole process was. The app is super intuitive, and with features like all-in pricing, there were no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you get. Plus, with their lowest price guarantee, I knew I was getting the best possible deal. And if anything happened, like the event got canceled, they got you covered with their flexible customer service policy. So if you're anything like me and you want to take the guesswork out of buying tickets, you've got to check out Game Time. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code BLADENK for $20 off your first purchase. That's, of course, BLAIDENK for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Well, what other games did you want to talk about during this window? I know you said that Vikings Lions.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this was an exciting one. For the NFC North, the Lions win it on a last-minute field goal, kind of back and forth. There was the Ivan Pace touchdown to put them ahead.
Yes, I wanted to brag about that, but then it was like he really did just pick up the ball and run with it. No disrespect. Like it's not like he
earned an angle.
Okay, that's true. Goat, we've known that though. Him being out there, it makes me smile every single possession, dude. I love Ivan Pace so much, and I love that he was undrafted. Nothing's better when you're like, damn it, I'm pretty sure this guy is good though, and then he ends up being good. It doesn't happen often, but
Miami Redhawks legend.
And it's just cool to see a small guy out there getting it done, and how quickly they were like, yeah, this is a guy. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say the Vikings defense overall though did not get it done today. Was all.
No, but Ivan Pace had a sack and a touchdown and 10 tackles, so
not his fault.
Not his fault. We're leaving with something. Our numbers look good. We do not care about the team performance.
Real.
I thought.
Go ahead.
Flores has had some good game plans. I thought that this was not maybe one of his best. A lot of blitzes that kind of just got picked up by Monty, and then they would get gashed off the play action. Jared Goff had another nearly perfect game. Obviously, he didn't go 18 for 18, but he was 22 of 25 for 280 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 picks. 22 of 25. And the first 2 incompletions that he had, which happened in the second half of the game, they were tipped. He had one tipped by Grenard, I think, and one tipped by some defensive lineman, number 90. So he didn't have a incompletion properly until the last 5 or 6 minutes of the game. And it was granted it was a bad incompletion. He overthrew a huge touchdown to Khalif Raymond, but that was the only inaccurate ball that he threw the entire game, and it's pretty ridiculous that he only missed, like truly missed once the entire game. And Monty and Gibbs are just so ridiculous. Like that juke from Gibbs in the open field. Did you see that one, guys?
Oh yes, I did.
Yeah,
that was
I
awesome.
saw the highlight.
He's a beast, man. It's a great offense, dude. And Goff putting up performances like this, even in great circumstances, is incredibly impressive. And I don't know, man. I think they were right to pay him. That's been my takeaway from the start of this season, or at least the last few games. Is he might not be a top 5 guy, but it would be tough to argue that like you can't, like, rolling with this wouldn't be the right call, because it's about as good as it can get.
Yeah, they're like the best offense that they've been so far right now. I feel like this is because of what Jameson Williams has provided them. Not every single game. Like, was he even playing in this game? I guess he was. He did not do much then. But
now it's like, but he's
had his
factor
moments
now.
Yeah.
And then Patrick has been getting a few targets, and I think Raymond had some targets today. And then Amon-Ra is just, up there with everybody, right?
Yeah.
And then, you've got Laporta and whatever. Like, you've got enough dudes there now, especially if you can get it to Gibbs. And like, it's a lot of players.
Here's a stat for you. The Detroit Lions had 11 plays go for 0 or negative yards today. They also had 11 explosive plays. It's pretty good when your rate of explosive plays is the same as your rate as like incompletions and run stuffs. And overall this season, they have the highest explosive play rate in the league overall. They have 59 of them, which the Houston Texans also have 59, and the Baltimore Ravens also have 59. So it's kind of a tie, and the Ravens have to play tomorrow. But explosive play rate, that's 15.7% for the Lions. That leads the league. 23.7% of their plays are going for 0 or negative yards. Both the best in the league right now. So
wow.
Just
it's been incredible,
hyper
man.
efficient.
Yeah, it's exactly what I envisioned them being this year. They didn't lose a step. They kept everybody. It's been awesome, and I'm glad they did it. It's really a bummer about Hutchinson, because otherwise they would be. Yeah. Here's the thing. The question is, not to take it away from the game itself. Maybe we'll get into this a little bit later about where they stack up. It sucks because Hutchinson was having he was gonna win Defensive Player of the Year. Maybe.
Yeah.
He was on that type of pace. Mm-hmm. And it's you got that, and you got the best version of your offense, and the team that beat you last year has a losing record right now. Now, not necessarily going to hold, but it's they're not looking perfect. And you just beat the only other, we have 3 tier 1 teams in the NFC? One has a losing record now, and one you just beat. It's damn, man, it sucks that Hutchinson got hurt, dude.
Yeah, and I thought their edges had kind of a disaster game. Even though they had some sacks today, and even though they won the game, watching the tape back, Darrisaw just has a monster performance. He's just throwing guys. James Houston rushes him, and Darrisaw's hands hit him, and he just jolts to a stop, or he tries to bend the edge and doesn't get anywhere. Pascal is just a power. All he has is a really weak power move. One guy goes around the arc by 5 yards, and the other guy, his power rush stalls out. That's your 1-2 punch. Now Reader is super cool, and Aleem McNeil is super cool. They tried the Onwuzurike and Wingo gimmick on the edge, which actually had some success. That last drive, I'll say this, on the last drive, they held strong. Watch Reader on the last drive. He takes a guy, there's a double team right at him. He takes one guy in one hand, one guy in the other hand, and he drives them both backwards into the backfield. And his linebacker ranges over to tackle Aaron Jones. And they also had Onwuzurike out on the edge instead of Houston, and he set a good edge there. So the defensive line did stiffen up at the end of the game. And I thought their linebackers had a really good performance overall. I thought one of the main differences between the two offenses, because Darnold had a decent day too, but the passes behind the line of scrimmage for the Vikings. There were like a few too many of them that just got tackled immediately, and like those were kind of the negative plays that made a difference at the end, and of course the pick. And he had more than one real incompletion. But the fact that they kind of rallied and tackled everything behind the line of scrimmage. Brian Branch, superstar.
I heard Brian Branch had a great game.
He's a beast.
Did you see his pick?
I saw the one where he like leapt like.
Yeah, that pick is ridiculous. When I first saw the highlight, I just saw the broadcast angle, and I thought for sure he was a cover 2 flat player, and he sunk and robbed like a hole shot, because that's what he's jumping into the air, making the catch behind him. That's almost always what it looks like. Amik Robertson had a chance to do that later in the game, and then when the camera panned over, it looked like the exact same. There was like someone on top, someone jumping beneath. Brian Branch caught it, Amik Robertson didn't. But when I watched the game back, what I realized is Branch was a single high safety playing cover 1 and jumped the route from his high safety spot and high pointed it in front of the receiver. Like he drove on that thing from his high safety spot. And he didn't drive to like cut off Addison. He ran behind him, in front of him, and leapt up to high point it. I thought for sure he was sinking in cover 2, because usually when you see that pick on the sideline, that's what it is. I can't remember seeing like a cover 1 safety doing that. Just crazy stuff.
That's like Charles Woodson-esque. Like that's the last guy I can think of that was making those kind of athletic feats.
That was wild.
Like Ed Reed. Yeah, so I heard Branch had a good game, but I feel like even without Hutchinson, this team probably feels like the favorite to come out of the NFC.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's a tough call.
Favorite out of the NFC. It's just such a bummer, dude, because they would be.
They just have there's such big negatives on the edge that I just feel like the Vikings, they could play them in a playoff game and they beat them today, but man, they just have 2 bad players.
Who can they make a move for realistically? I see people say Crosby, but it's like no way. Like right?
Crosby would be a lot. You would
have to commit to like an insane number of.
You wouldn't be able to trade for any of the like tier 1 edges.
No, I don't think you could afford it long term. No, unless you were really, really nuts. So they're already paying a lot of guys. But it's like, who can you get?
And it's just like, is Crosby going to come available is my main thing.
Right.
It's like, if he were to come available, I think the Lions should try to make a move for him, because the window is kind of now, and you could always trade someone else, if you're going to bring him in, or maybe you could trade him later. I don't know, but I just don't think he's going to become available. Maybe Trey Hendrickson, but I think the Bengals are going to try to turn the season around, and like he's their only good defensive player.
You really need them to like
sell. Like I just don't think they're going to be big sellers.
The problem is that
the AFC,
the depth in the AFC stinks right now. It's not good. Like the Wild, so they're 3-4, and they're like, we're fine.
Maybe like Joey Bosa, but the Chargers are a little bit too good too. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd
Myles Garrett, baby.
Stop.
No,
hey,
that's the same thing.
Don't
Crosby.
even joke about that, man.
They should free him. Maybe
I've heard Za'Darius. That's the one that I've heard entertained.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. Maybe like Michael Hoyt for the Rams or something. Like they've got Verse and Byron Young.
It would have to be a team with
so good.
Multiple good pass rushers, so that they'd be willing to give up like their second best guy.
I'd
Do the
offer
Broncos
up
have anybody?
Jonathan Cooper?
The Broncos are too good.
Yeah, you're right. No, they wouldn't trade for not a starter. They just might have some depth. I don't know. They wouldn't trade any. They're not looking to trade right now anyway.
No, I think it's
over. That's what I'm hearing.
And here's the thing: even if an edge rusher became available, the Lions aren't the only team that would be in the market for one. The Cardinals would be interested. The Falcons would probably be. You don't think
the Falcons already made their move, and the Cardinals are.
The Falcons still need another one, man. Let's not.
They already. No, there's. The Lions are the most. The Lions could and should outbid anybody who is the top available guy on the market. It's just, who would that be? Maybe like a Harold Landry? Maybe like Jeffrey Simmons, but he's interior.
Yeah. If it was before tonight,
Harold Landry could at least defend the run, you know.
But apparently Hassan Reddick agreed to a deal today, so
he did. I'm liking Harold Landry as your best bet. To be honest, or like an Arden Key. Is he still on the Titans? I think he's still on the Titans.
So Harold Landry, Arden Key, and Zadarius Smith. Those are your guys.
Yeah, I could see it. But it was a good win for them today. Their edges were just really bad until the end. They were just really bad. So,
all right,
absolutely.
Well, do we want to talk about Chiefs 49ers? This was the Super Bowl rematch.
No. You watched that? I was watching Washington. I was watching Mariota. Let's have the Mariota conversation.
Mariota 40 bomb. No, but
Cliff.
I mean, can I just say one thing, dude?
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Dude, like, the Panthers fans on my timeline who are like, I don't want to say they're surprised, but they're like, this defense is the defense is terrible. It's like, yeah, dude, like, I don't know what to tell you. This defense sucked last year and then like gave up all of its good players, and then all of its other good players got hurt in the first 2 weeks.
I feel like hope always springs so eternal in the off season, and I feel like as the season like drew nearer, I just saw Matt like realize more and more like how fucked the Panthers were.
I mean,
there really are like there really isn't a smidgen of talent outside of two guys, and now it's all come to fruition.
No, like them being like, we only care about the offense has come to roost, and then also like the Bryce stuff, like train wreck.
If only the Browns played the Panthers this year. Matt, that would be cinema.
No one wants to see that. That doesn't need to happen. No, Washington was still like as good as the Lions' defensive performance was. The Commanders only had 9 negative plays all game.
Oh my god!
Not a shock.
So the Lions had 11. So. But I didn't see it literally any of that game. I asked Twitter what happened on the Daniels injury, and they said he got hit in the ribs. I looked at the next gen dots of it and not the play, which is kind of nerdy of me. But it looks like he got tackled from behind. So I don't know how he hurt his ribs. I don't know what his status is.
Flipped up. You didn't see it was very much a cartoony tackle. He's fine. I've heard so.
Oh, that's good. So we still get Caleb Williams versus.
You can get hit from behind
Williams.
and still hurt your ribs.
Yeah, I was expecting like, I don't know, like a shot. Usually you get
still
like
have
hit
to,
from
you
the
still have to
side
fall or like. I don't know. I feel like that's not that crazy. But
Yeah,
his mom said
but
that he's okay. So.
Oh well.
I left you.
Well, they looked like even if he's hurt, they looked plenty capable with Mariota, considering he was 18 for 23 for 205 yards and 2 touchdowns.
He had 40 real yards.
Oh, damn.
Deplorable.
That top 1% tax.
Calling the Panthers defense deplorable. I like that. But let's get at the 49ers Chiefs.
Yeah, man. Not Brock Purdy's best game of the year from his elite season so far. Theo,
I said wait for the Chiefs game.
You're gonna victory lap.
Yeah, man. I mean, he played one of his worst games today, and it was the stuff that I guess I was worried about coming into it. The red zone pick was ugly. Just a guy who the arm strength, like the throws deep down the sideline, were ugly.
Really, really bad, and they were both caught. So it's like, okay, you play the next down or whatever, and it's not the end of the world. But like, both of those easily could have been touchdowns, like easily.
Yeah.
And they were just really like it all of a sudden turned into a 50-50 ball that like Kittle had to go win, you know? Just a really terrible performance. I mean, it's like when Purdy does that creator stuff, sometimes it can get into like, you know, we talked about how Jordan Love was up and down. So some like this game, it was like, imagine Jordan Love, but all the down stuff.
Jordan Love was like 40% of the athleticism, I feel like. Brock Purdy runs around, but he, like I mentioned in the last episode, he runs around a lot and he's been scrambling and he's been creating a lot, but he averages 3 yards per pass outside the pocket and he averages 9 yards a pass inside the pocket. So he scrambles around and he turns his back to the defense, but usually he doesn't do that and still have access to every throw on the field like the real freaks do. So that to me is the difference, where it's like when he scrambles, it's not like he's getting people to move. Like Josh Allen can scramble and throw a post when he's running into the out of bounds area, and like he'll jump and throw a touchdown. Like Purdy does not have that kind of athleticism at all. So, and his range just gets even more limited when he's on the move. Like you saw the under throws when he's in the pocket. His arm when he's on the move, like, and he doesn't have his base, it's worse. So like the running around stuff has been cool, and he can be accurate, and he's twitchy and he makes people miss, but are those consistent? Is playing that way going to work against top defenses? My prediction was no. All right. And it was my prediction from the Patriots game where like he was holding the ball and they were leveraging the crossers. And it's like, this is just, if they had Barmore, this wouldn't work. And then like the Seahawks, like I said, dream matchup for the 49ers and what they want to do. So yeah, he cooked them. But against Flores and now against Spags, it's been two just, complete duds. And it's not to say he's a terrible quarterback or the 49ers can't win the Super Bowl with him, but now Ayuk has an ACL, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, they looked bad.
And they're 3-4. Like I'm kind of out on them.
It's not looking great. It's not looking very good at all. I
feeling on this,
they have it.
Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. My feeling on this team has kind of been, if they were at full force, I think they had 17-0 potential. Like a fully healthy team with Greenlaw, Hufanga, McCaffrey, Ayuk playing, both being healthy and playing at his full potential, because he's had some bad games this year also. That team is probably the best in the NFL, hands down. Because their offensive line, like, I know it doesn't have the name recognition outside of Trent Williams, but it's been playing well in the run game. That's allowed, their running backs outside of McCaffrey to go off, Garendo and Mason. But for them to be as banged up as they are, and they are asking a lot out of Purdy, and in some of the easier games he has delivered, but they're going to be asking even more of him going forward until they get McCaffrey back. And even then, depending on, how healthy he is when he comes back, they still might need him to do a lot. It's just not looking good when you look at the Lions and it's like, well, this offense is perfect. They make no mistakes ever, right?
Yeah, well, I think... Yeah, they don't make many mistakes. I think you can still get Goff on maybe some of the same things as you can get Purdy on. Like, if you could beat, I don't know, Decker. Like, Goff did get strip sacked today. I think sometimes under pressure in the last playoffs. I think that's still an issue for Goff.
But the Lions have just more options of, like,
in terms of
if something, if like they needed to go somewhere to put the ball in someone else's hand other than Goff, they could. Like, the 49ers don't really have that option.
Of his limitations. I think this is part of the thing with Purdy. It's nice that he can run a little bit, and it's nice that he maybe has like the mind or is willing to get out of the pocket and do some things, but that's got to be your counterpunch. It can't be the main thing you're throwing at teams,
Exactly.
And with how long he's holding the ball, it's been the main thing that they're throwing at teams, and it's unnecessary when you're in, what's usually a very, very good offense, right? That has a lot of talent. So look, he's got to rein it back in a little bit for sure.
And even against the Chiefs, like if he didn't throw these picks, they could have won. And he has a lot of excuses. Like it is really banged up, but on some of these picks, like he doesn't, man. Like Ayuk was healthy when he threw that first pick and Justin Reed came flying down and robbed him. Yeah. All right. Debo was on the field too on that play. So that pick, you couldn't, obviously after the game, you can say like, oh, he was throwing to Ronnie Bell, but he threw one back-breaking interception with all of the stars on the field, right? Kittle, Ayuk, Debo, Jordan Mason's a good player. Like, okay, that one you can't really say anything for. And then the throw to Ronnie Bell that was picked. First of all, Ronnie Bell was wide open, and he threw a pick to, who did he throw a pick to? It's like someone don't remember his name, but he was also like, he was a Ronnie Bell caliber corner, and Ronnie Bell was like trying to lean on him, and then he broke it off towards the sticks, and it was an outbreaking route. And like, I don't know where Purdy threw it. He threw it 10 yards above his head towards the sideline, going, why would he be there? Like, throw it towards the sticks. If he's not there on the out, he's not there. But I don't know, just the two of them not being on the same page. But really, it's more Purdy's fault than Bell, who is wide open on the sideline. And then the pick in the end zone, like, yeah, Karlaftis won. I get it. And he has an excuse. Like, he was getting hit. I get it. But also, like, he was throwing it into double coverage at the same time. And that's one where he probably should have scrambled. Like, the B gap was wide open in front of him. And Trent Williams erased the guy on the left side. I think he could have maybe gone even backwards, which he's shown no hesitation to do. Like, he's shown that he can make these people miss if he feels them. He just didn't feel that pressure at all, and then threw it into double coverage. It's a bad combination. Like, that pick was bad, and it should have been a touchdown anyway, because he underthrew Jacob Cowing on the double move. And so he is running a ghost ship 49ers by the end, yeah, he's running a ghost ship 49ers by the end of that game, but I don't think anyone else is at fault for any of his turnovers today.
I think that's completely fair. I 100% agree. So how worried are you about the 49ers? What do you think this season ends for them?
I think they're at risk of missing the playoffs. Like, I don't know if it'll happen. Like, I think they can still sneak into the wild card but I don't know. Like, their offensive line legitimately isn't great, right, outside of Trent Williams. McCaffrey is a complete unknown at this point. Ayuk is their man beater. I mean, Ayuk is a top 5 guy in the league last year against man coverage. Debo is not that, okay? He's not top 100 versus man coverage and separating against it right now. So to have Ayuk out, I don't know why teams won't just load the box and play man coverage on all these receivers. And if Ayuk is out, like, who is going to separate outside of Kittle, who you can double team in the middle of the field, or you can blitz and keep him into block? Like, I don't think Purdy is athletic enough, and I don't think these receivers are good enough to just go up against man coverage week in and week out, like, separate and make high velocity, tight window throws. And then on the defensive side of the ball, like, that's the unit that's really going to have to lock in, and Fred Warner is going to have a defensive player of the year, type of season and all that. But, they got some weaknesses on that side of the ball as well. Maybe Greenlaw coming back will help them, but they're 3-4 right now, man. They've lost a lot of games, and they're getting weaker and weaker and not stronger and stronger.
The current NFC playoff picture is Lions, Commanders, Bucks, Seahawks, Vikings, Packers, Bears. After that, it's the Eagles, Falcons, Cowboys, then the 49ers at 11.
And what's their percent chance to make the playoffs? It's at 49%, so it's dipped below the 50% mark.
That's true. We'll see. I'm not quite that low on them yet, but yeah, like, they're not as good as they were last year.
Yeah, they're below the Cowboys.
Maybe just off injury.
I think they would be better. I think they're better than the 11th team in the NFC. I think they're probably better than Dallas. It's because Dallas's defense is so horrible. But like Atlanta, Philly, those teams are both. I feel like both of those teams are Well, the big thing
Then
is
you
that
think about how they have
the-
a head start and schedule, though. It's like, I don't know.
Well, the big thing is that the NFC West is competitive. Like, they're still in it. Like, they just beat the Seahawks.
True.
And the Rams and the Cardinals don't look that great.
No.
So it's not all doom and gloom. But it's not good.
No.
It's not good at all.
Do we want to talk about the Sunday night game?
Yes. And maybe the London game I'm also down to talk about. But
We can hit that a little bit,
one
too.
is-
there's not too much
it's-
to say, honestly.
There's not. Another not his fault masterclass. But
May played pretty damn well, I thought. It just
He did.
They had a 0% success rate on runs on rushing downs. That's the thing that sticks with me in this game. They're the first
Common
team this year to do it.
Patriots.
Usually you can muster at least one, like, 1st and 10 that goes to 2nd and 5. Like, that's not that hard of a bar to clear.
they can't.
Patriots could not do that today. Or
can't
maybe
do
a
it.
2nd and 8 that goes to, or how about this? A second and 8 is a passing down, so that doesn't count. But how about this? A 2nd and 3 that goes to a 3rd and 1. Usually you can get like something like that, and that counts as a
Well,
successful
here's the thing.
running
They were
play,
never
'cause you
in
get half
2nd
the
and
yardage.
3 because they would run it on 1st and 10.
Right.
So it was 2nd and 10, and then they would run it on 2nd and 10, and it would be 3rd and 9, and then they would be like, all right, Drake May, save us. And sometimes he would, sometimes he wouldn't. But their first drive was really good. They did a lot of play action. They ran some screens, like a super diverse set of plays on that opening drive, and then after that, like once the script was done, they just abandoned any sorts of creativity in their play calling. It was just like the Panthers defense, deplorable, man.
I'm glad May looks good, though. I'm glad after all of the conversation around him getting in that the first couple of games have gone pretty decent for him, and that he's just showed, I mean, any life, honestly.
We here on the Stay
take
Hot
a lot.
podcast are vindicated because there are a lot of people that were saying it was a
it's
bad
only
idea.
2 games. It's only 2 games, but it's like the
I think
take
we're
was basically
already
just like,
vindicated.
should they put him out there at all, or is it so dangerous and so bad? It's not that bad, and he's a good player, and you play your good player, and that's why you drafted him 3rd overall, and he'll make the team better because he's a good player and he's at an important position. And like, don't overthink this quarterback stuff. If you want to, maybe I'm at the point where it's like, if you want to sit a guy for 4 weeks behind Brissett, like fine, like go ahead, like whatever. It doesn't matter. But like, you don't need to sit somebody for the sake of sitting somebody because it worked for Patrick Mahomes. Like I just don't buy into that. And honestly, like the whole confidence thing, I think that's just total
It's pseudoscience.
crap.
It's people talking from the
it's total-
outside looking in. It's like, does it really matter? Like, what evidence do we have? I feel like
none, but you can't.
I feel like I've
disprove
seen
it,
so many studies, or like every year we have this debate. Should they sit? Should they start? I feel like if there's a clear answer, everyone would know. But there's not a clear answer. There's been plenty of success stories of people who started right away. And there's been plenty of success stories of people who sat. Really, I think if you're a good quarterback, you'll eventually figure it out. And I think that May, the odds that anybody like tears their ACL in their first start and is never the same. I mean, when has that ever happened? Like, RG3 is always the guy I think of when a rookie quarterback season gets derailed, but that's because they were reckless when he was already hurt and he had already kind of established himself. Caleb Williams, the offensive line he's behind, those offensive linemen, terrible. Doesn't mean you should start Bagent above them to begin the season. Like, if it's football, people are going to get cooked and you're going to get crushed, and it's going to happen next year too with the amount of work they have to do on their offensive line. So,
and the guys that sat, like Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith, who was like the established starter, had been there. Right, they were a playoff team. Same thing with Jordan Love. Rodgers was there.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
same thing with, same thing with everybody. Like, the success stories are happening when the success stories of people who sat. The success stories are happening because the team is good and they got to sit the whole year because they were going to make the playoffs. Like,
yeah, and they could just chill about it. It wasn't like, hey, we're going to be the worst team in the league. Can we play the guy we drafted at 3rd overall at the most important position, please? And it's like, no, because we think it's going to make him too nervous. It's like, you're just not going to do that, dude. You're putting Buddy in.
Do we want to before we move on? That's about all I have to say about the London game. Besides, like, Trevor Lawrence back, Brian Thomas Jr. touchdown bet still alive.
He's a beast.
He's a beast.
Brian
Pretty good at football.
Really good.
Pretty damn good. Yeah, his release on the 2-point conversion, like just shoving Gonzalez by him and then breaking inside. The post route was pretty spectacular. Just good stuff from him all the way around. But anyway. Do you have any takeaways on the Chiefs offense? I know we talked about the 49ers, but at this point, because my thought is the Chiefs, before the season, we were like, could the Chiefs go 17-0? Is this the best version of them that we've seen? And then through the first couple weeks, it's like they've got some major problems on offense. But now they're 6-0 for the first time in the Mahomes was it 2013 that they were 6-0? I saw the stat. I think they're 6-0 for the first time in the Mahomes era. At any rate, they're the last undefeated team in the league.
Yes.
And then you look at their schedule, and I'm like, that 17-0 mark is still like kind of on the table for them, because even when they're playing at their worst, which they kind of were today, like Mahomes had a 44 passer rating, you can't forget about the defense. And they just still have Mahomes, who's going to cut it back on the sideline when he really needs to do it. Or
the defense.
So are we still in best version of Chiefs mode, or 17-0 Chiefs mode after this 49ers
I don't know if I'm
win?
in 17-0 Chiefs mode. Part of the problem with that take is that they lost Rice and they lost Brown, and it's like, well, the whole thing was kind of hinging on that. Like, those guys were going to be like pretty solid, and it was all going to work out fine. The run game was really good, though. And Pacheco, yeah, the run game is still really good. They're like they can, and they kind of just like, they're almost like you think of those teams where it's like they have a great defense and they can run the ball, and maybe they don't have the quarterback, but they like can win a bunch of games. The Chiefs almost play like that, but then when they do drop back, it's like Mahomes, and they get really creative with the stuff that they do, like with motion and behind the line, and they want to like run out. So it's like they've got like this great closer on top of that team archetype that can, maybe the passing offense as a whole can get pretty ugly, but when it comes to like close it out time situations, I mean, like, there's nobody else you'd rather have. And Reed can design up some cool stuff for him and hit some explosives. I mean, they try to get the ball to Worthy a lot, but it's like, man, when they can really get him going, dude, I mean, he's so quick. Yeah. I don't know if they're going to, I do think the receivers at some point will cost them. But you know what? I also thought that last year, and then they won the Super Bowl.
They did. But they did have Rashee Rice.
Right.
I'll say as a fan of the last team to make a serious push at going undefeated, unless you want to count the Steelers when they went 11-0, they got pretty close. They were like starting to get like like 11-0 is pretty far. Yeah, but people were calling them phony. The Panthers had a real shot at it. Like they were really, they were 2 wins away, right?
The Eagles had a pretty good shot at it too, I feel like.
That's true. But the Panthers, they weren't some like beautiful. They weren't like blowing everybody out. Like their defense was great, and then they just kept making it happen at the end of games. So I don't know. It's not.
I could definitely see the Chiefs. Or sorry, Matt.
It's not like it's pretty hard to think with just clear like, yeah, this is tough. But you know what? The Panthers had bad receivers too.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. They play the Buccaneers and the Broncos and the Bills in November. So I could see them definitely dropping one in November.
I think it's just such a difficult achievement to win. And they still need 11 more wins in a row.
Yeah, 17-0 is tough, but could they
their
lose
defense
like 2
is
more the
just
rest of the way?
playing so
yeah,
well.
they absolutely
man.
could do that.
Yeah.
Their defense is playing so well.
It is. And here's the thing. Their offense is not as bad as I kind of thought it was. The explosive plays have not been there. But they have the best early down success rate in the entire league. They have a better early down success rate than the Lions. And they're doing that without Pacheco, with a bunch of injuries in the receiver room. They 56.9% of their first and second down plays pick up at least half the yardage that they need.
Okay.
And that's important. They are not hitting the big play. Their explosive play rate, 8.8%. Remember, the Lions was at 15.7, so that's like almost half, right? So that's not good. But the fact that they just can reliably get these 5-yard chunks because Andy Reid is like the best screen designer in the league, it matters a lot. And I could see some of the explosiveness coming back because is Hollywood Brown meant to come back at some point? I don't think he's out for the entire season, is he?
I don't know.
I don't think that he is. Yes, he is.
IR.
My bad.
Okay.
I don't think Rasheed is supposed to be out for the whole year, is he?
Oh yeah, he is. He definitely is. Okay, so maybe the explosive plays aren't coming, but maybe they can just
It's over.
Play the most boring brand of football ever
But you're right, Theo. The
Super Bowl.
offense isn't that bad. They're top 10 in EPA per play, and they're the number one, last I checked at least. I don't know if it's changed after tonight. They were the number one offense in total success rate.
Yeah, exactly. They're picking up half the yardage that they need. They're picking up half the yardage, and
Dude.
once Pacheco comes back, I think that they're going to be plenty intimidating, and maybe not the best version of the Chiefs that we've seen, but like just as good as the last two that won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, they already have done it with poor receivers. It's like, who really cares at this point? It doesn't even matter. They're going to win. I'm not going to watch any more games.
There's not a team in the AFC, I think, that's better than them right now. Like even Baltimore.
I could see the Ravens, but
Baltimore's defense isn't
it's
that
tough
good.
to give them
I think
that's true.
I think we need to have we don't need to have it right now, but maybe next episode we need to have a serious conversation about the Ravens defense because the Bengals put up numbers on them and they couldn't move the ball worth a damn against the Browns.
Yeah, I could see that. Maybe, I mean, the Bengals gave them a run for their money. Like, I don't know if the Bengals defense can lock in. I think the Bills certainly have a shot.
They're gettable. It's the NFL.
Gettable.
Like the Chiefs have played a bunch of close games this year.
Yeah, you're right.
But like, dude, they just have like Mahomes is just such a good closer. He's just so frustrating as a creator, and his ability to like keep his eyes down the field and then scoot away for 8 yards or whatever is probably like one of the more like backbreaking plays in football right now, dude. It's just so frustrating to watch if you're cheering against him. I don't care, but
don't let the Chargers get hot. I'll say that. They don't want to see the Chargers in the playoffs.
Herbert
some of them really don't.
But
do we
Don't
want
let
to
the
talk
Browns
about
get
Jets,
hot.
Steelers?
yeah, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Russ hit
Let
a
Russ
bunch of
cook.
deep shots to Pickens. They weren't all necessarily
Hold
the
on.
greatest
Can we-
throws in the world, but Pickens was such a beast.
Best hands in the
was it
NFL, man.
Freiermuth had that ridiculous one. Was it him who had that ridiculous one
Yeah.
to catch? Yeah, the Steelers receiving weapons kind of came out to play today, and I they were talking on the podcast. It's like, you know, if Fields wasn't hitting those and they can get those shots down the sideline to Pickens, it's like you understand what it unlocks for the offense. And I kind of agree. Now, I don't think Russ is going to be like some great game manager for them for the rest of the year because it was like pretty limited on what he was trying. And you're not going to win all of those 50-50 balls all the time. It's worth mentioning, you know, the Jets are a little banged up at corner right now, and maybe that helps somewhat because they weren't getting those on sauce, for the record.
Pickens caught one, but it was out of bounds.
Oh, well, then it sounds like he didn't catch one.
But he caught it.
Usually when they go like this with their arms and they kind of wave them in that big horizontal motion, it does not signify a catch and instead quite the opposite.
You've got to get, But you know, it's. I feel like Tomlin is at least justified by this game, a little bit. No, just to have any sort of downfield presence. You know, they made a good point on the broadcast that I really agreed with, where it's like the field's rushing upside is nice, but does it? If he can't hit anything deep and you can just play really downhill and really close and just, you know, load up the box, like, does it actually help the run game more than it hurts it? I don't know. Because they were running the ball real well today, although the Jets have had those problems.
Yeah.
And just in general, I don't know, dude. If you're a Steelers guy, I'm not saying that many Steelers fans are like this, but there's some that is like anti-Tomlin because they are like kind of stuck in a rut. I promise you, man, it is just really difficult to get a quarterback in the NFL. If you're frustrated with maybe how they've approached the quarterback situation, fair, but they've like tried to draft one, and I understand them like not trying to move up for one this year. Eventually, they will hit again, and changing your coach is not going to change your odds on that unless you get a coach that makes you bad and gives you a higher pick. And I don't really think that's the path forward. I think you kind of just have to keep taking swings and trust to Tomlin. If he's getting playoff teams after playoff teams off of just, I mean, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, I mean, really limiting QB play, you've got to hold out and wait for you to figure that out and assume that you can do it with him.
My Tomlin Coach of the Year take is looking so fire right now. They're 5-2.
Yeah,
he's never won one. We got to get this.
He's never won one. Oh, if you, I didn't even know that's true.
He's never won.
He's never won one, and they're 5-2 with bad quarterbacks. It's
their defense
band,
rocks.
ladies and gentlemen.
Their defense
and their special teams is better.
Their special teams,
they blocked
man,
this year.
It's awesome. I know
they lead the NFL since 2022. They have 9 blocks.
Sick, man. They're sick. It's so. People talk about Tomlin double magic and how he just squeaks out games in these weird ways. It's like, it's not really devil magic. It's just that he's good on special teams and defense instead of offense.
He's good and he's got the right guys hired, and those little things show up in the game. It's not magic, and sometimes you'll see the inverse from certain teams. And it's not magic against them.
If anything, it's the Mike Tomlin double magic is him sabotaging what could be a better team with like it's not that this is a 5-win team that wins 9. Like maybe it should be an 11-win team that wins 9 because they run the ball like so much. Well, they hire Arthur Smith and they like run the ball so much, even though they're the worst running team, and they don't play their best guys on the offensive line, and they like troll with picking snap counts. It's like, is it double magic that they're winning, or like lucky that they're winning, or just like him being a dumbass that they're losing it? They should be 17-0. Like, I think that's the Steelers fans' main concern, is not that they're winning too many games, although some make that argument that he keeps them in quarterback purgatory. But the more valid complaint with Tomlin is he legitimately does mess with them, their record by doing some inefficient things sometimes, I feel like. But or even this week, like he just didn't, like the fact that he was so tight-lipped naming a starter, but like all the players were like, "Oh yeah, it's Russ," just like things like that.
That's fine. I don't think that matters at all.
I thought it was pretty funny. Not. Someone on Twitter pointed out that Russ had secret handshakes with all the receivers. It's like, bro was so ready for tonight. The whole time.
That's who they went out to get to be their starter until he got injured. I understand wanting to see him. It's and just being like kind of hush hush, but I don't know. I feel like every time a quarterback comes in and teams don't know about it, it can be a little bit tougher. So
that's fair. But
I get it. It's funny that it got blown by Pickett just being like, "Yeah, it's Russ."
Yes, it was.
Oh, George.
There is no offense. The Steelers are not the interesting team in this game, though.
Yes.
It's
funny how
the New York Jets.
Funny how they fire their head coach, and who's a defensive guy, and in back-to-back weeks, their defense looks worse. Interesting how that.
They were going up against the Steelers vaunted offense. So what are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
Yeah,
George
dude,
Pickett, he had stickum on his hands. And
I think the vibes in New York might be like historically horrifically bad. Like they've just it's like, what if I was thinking about it like this, like what if you kept making the JJ Redick move? You know what I'm saying? I think about the Lakers and they get JJ Redick and you're kind of like, okay, but it's like the Jets have basically been making like 100 JJ Redick moves ever since they got Rodgers. But here's the thing, like a lot of them aren't good. I think JJ Redick actually might be pretty decent for the Lakers. But like a lot of this is just like nonsense, and I think it's sort of like just built up and just like, what are they doing, man? You know, it's like I want to defend the Adams stuff, but at the same time, and I think they can be better. Like I think they can still turn it around to some extent, man. But like the side, like these guys don't look like everything is good or like we have an interim head coach, we're fired up. That's not like what the vibe has been at all. And like honestly, you do see that. That is not something like made up or fake or like hypothetical. Like you do see it give teams a new energy. You didn't see that at all. The Adams trade in a vacuum, a good thing, and with the talent they have, it makes sense. And I don't think like I'll ever look back and be like, that's what did them in. But just to like have Rodgers get his way so much and then him like be so angry all the time and like unhappy anyway, and just like the grumpiness, like I think that rubs off on the rest of the team. And it's not their main problem. It isn't. But it's just like when I'm watching the game, it's like hard not to notice that stuff. It really is. And they pan to the sideline and they look miserable, man. It's like, do you guys think that's okay? You can be honest. Do you think that's like nothing? Do you think that's like reading like pointless tea leaves or like?
I was told that's why they fired Saleh, was because the vibes were bad, but the vibes are worse.
And again, I talk about the connection with Garrett Wilson every week. I think it's bad that Rodgers is in Egypt instead of getting working with the young guys. And then I think it's bad that like in the Vikings game, he and Wilson aren't on the same page, and then the sideline reporters are coming on the broadcast and saying like, yeah, there has been no communication between Rodgers and the wide receivers. Tyrod Taylor went over there to get them fired up. Like, I don't think that's good. I don't think that's helping them get on the same page at all. So I do think like Rodgers can yell and scream all he wants, but at some time you actually have to like, I don't know, have a productive conversation, put in the extra reps in practice before the season. Like, yeah, I don't think that he's behaved very
he's
leadership-like, you know. And that was the case at the end in Green Bay, and I don't know why it always kind of worked out with the Packers, and he's still the same guy he was with the Packers, but I guess the difference is this. Adams was in his 20s on the Packers, and David Bakhtiari was not a total turnstile like Tyron Smith is. And with the Packers, they could just kind of run the hits and play this very kind of simple, traditional drop back West Coast brand of offense, and everything just ran so smoothly. Here it just looks like vanilla, and everybody knows what's coming, and they just pin their ears back and they beat the offensive lineman, and then Rodgers doesn't have the same magic that he did, and even when things are there, he's missing them. It's just ugly. The only two wins they have this year are against the Patriots and the Titans. They're just a bad team, man, and the defense hasn't been what you'd hope either.
They play a lot. They've played some close games, and it's like they've been competitive sometimes, but like they didn't lose the Vikings game for no reason, you know. The Bills game was tough because you missed some kicks, but still at the same time, I mean, you're the team you are at some point, and they're 2-5. I do think there's a path to them getting better and growing, but maybe like a team that turns it around needs sort of the energy and the people within the building and within the locker room to make it happen. It doesn't just happen for no reason. And I wonder if Rodgers is just going to be mad for the rest of the year, which he's like the leader of the team and like the heart of the team at this point, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think just with how much you've put into him, that's the case. I just wonder if like that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
it just feels like when somebody like screws up, Rodgers is not willing to like work with them to improve it. He's just like, that guy sucks, and that's it. And it makes it impossible to build any new relationships with receivers when you do that. You're just going to be mad at them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like that's just the type of vibe I get, like, or just what it seems to be, where it's just like, you know, I don't know. Maybe that's
Rodgers has been and in the past Rodgers has been the galvanizing force. He had the relax quote. Yeah, there are seasons in my mind that are defined by Rodgers steadying the room. The relax quote and the I feel like we can run the table. I really do, and then they did. Like
yes.
But I just don't know if a quote like that is coming from him, because he just seems just as dejected. No,
instead he's saying, you know, Mike Williams ran the wrong route. Like, what is that, dude? Like, why are you saying that?
I was confused about that. I would like more of an explanation, because he talked about throwing it to the red line on that quote. He's like, I saw everybody go in towards Lazard, who had his hand up. Williams was open. I threw it to the red line, and he wasn't at the red line. I'm like, where is the red line? Because I always thought of the red line as being between the numbers and the sideline, and that being the line that you hold your route on goes. Mm-hmm. You know, like you want to give them a little bit of space to like fade towards the sideline when they're running outside the numbers on go patterns. Like that's the red line. What red line was he talking about? Because I don't know what red line runs like in the seams like that. I don't know though. It's like, was that even a real term? But he probably knows more than me.
I don't know, man. So you might know more than him at this point.
Yeah, I definitely do. You know what I'm talking about with the red line, right, Blaiden? Like between the numbers and the side, like that's the red line.
I mean, it's just like when you stack, which like I guess in a literal, I've never heard it used up the seam, but I guess in a literal sense, like if you stack your defender, then I guess it kind of manufactures. Changes. I guess it kind of manufactures itself. Like if you're lined up on the bottom of the numbers running a fade route, like the stack would happen probably, hopefully within like a yard or two of those numbers, and so you still have space on the sideline. I imagine it's the same thing if you're running something up the seam, but I mean, it's hard to say for sure.
Yeah,
you know.
Sure. Well, what was the situation? Like that was the play, if I'm remembering correctly, where it's like it was way underthrown and he had to try to work back towards it.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. It seemed, but he didn't say it was an underthrown by me. He said Mike Williams needs to run to the red line, and I threw it to the red line, and he wasn't there. But I'm like, the red line is not where you threw it. At least the red line I know, but
I don't know.
Like, was that a valid complaint? I just am wondering if people know what red line he's talking about. But yeah, there's just way too many negative plays for them, and they have some high highs, and there were some high highs tonight for sure. Just the cohesiveness, the drive to drive consistency, just completely non-existent. It's just a couple splash plays here and there and some wins against some bad teams, and every other game has been an L.
Yep. And the thing is that they've looked like they can win, and in late, you know, they had like a lead, and well, maybe not a lead, but they were like, you know, looking pretty solid in the second half against the Bills. Like they had a real shot, and they were leading against the Steelers about a half, and they just couldn't make it happen, man. They can't put together the whole game.
Yep.
Yeah,
they
the
get
second half
outgained on the ground every game. It's not good.
It's a bummer. I feel bad for Garrett Wilson. He's the GOAT.
He did drop that pass though that got intercepted and brought back to the one.
Rodgers threw it.
Shout out Beanie, the Steelers nickel.
Yes,
that guy's a dog.
In his first game with an interception, he had 2 interceptions. I can't believe they called back his block.
That was so bullshit.
That was clean. Like I don't know what clean. I don't know what they wanted him to do. He
that's such a bummer to take away a play like that from a guy off nonsense.
Another team that got killed by nonsense tonight, the Minnesota Lynx. by the way. I tuned into that for some of this Jets-Steelers game. The fourth quarter, Brianna Stewart traveled on that final possession, and it looked like a clean block to me, and they gave her free throws. Final possession to win the NBA Finals. Small market Minnesota. They wanted New York to get it. All right, I get it.
That's what they're saying. Yeah, man.
I mean, it was so it was so bad at the end of the game. Those refs, like, it wouldn't surprise me. But you also got to hit some shots, which like neither team really did at all.
Yeah.
No.
I was thinking about.
That's what I heard.
When hearing you guys talk about Jordan Love's performance today, I played a flag football tournament this weekend where I ended up having to play quarterback because we split our team into two teams. And so I ended up playing quarterback, and I was like, "Oh man, I played like Anthony Richardson today because my first game I threw like 4 touchdowns. I was hitting like off balance throws. I was doing some crazy stuff, and then the second game I threw like 6 picks, and it was just really rough. And I hit one really cool touchdown, but I also did not take a sack. So I was like, I played like Richardson, but now hearing you guys talk about Love today, I'm like, maybe I was more like Jordan Love.
One-man pass rush wasn't getting to you. That 0-man pass rush of flag football.
No, they were blitzing. They were. I got blitzed every single play.
Oh,
I bet. They said.
So you can't replace the blitz. That's what I'm hearing.
Yep, they said.
I did replace the blitz. sometimes they just replace their. Sometimes they just replace their blitzer with before I could, you know, because they knew what I wanted. They knew I wanted to replace the blitz. They were playing good defense there, but I
would have picked you off.
Man, you wish.
I would have stiff armed you.
I was trying to call out my blitz replacements because I was like, they had one time they sent 2 blitzers, and so I told my
not
center.
His fault graphic with Blaiden as the shocked pundit and as the quarterback. That's the kind of breakdown.
They sent 2 blitzers.
We always get from your flag football games.
They sent 2
we need
blitzers.
His fault graphic is what we need.
I told my center, like, just drop straight back because they're going to send both these guys. And he dropped straight back just like I told him to. And I whipped it in. And as soon as he turned his head around, the ball was in his chest and he dropped it. I was like, no.
Not his fault.
It was such a perfect
Rodgers,
call.
Low key.
That's what I was about to say, dude.
No, I missed some throws. I played like shit in that game. But the first game I was money. No, the first game I was so money. I like ran a dude over into the end zone. It was sick. Pure Anthony Richardson.
But
I don't think there's film, so it's you always have to take my word for it. But yeah, I think that's all that we have for today.
It's a light hour 40 for us.
Oh man,
Tough.
I gotta wake up early, drive back to Columbus.
Hotties are eating good.
Yeah, man. Mm-hmm. But thank you all so much for tuning in to another episode of Stay Hot. We've got some more draft prospect stuff coming your way. We've got some more preview stuff coming your way next week. We've got all types of stuff. Should be should just be a fun time here at Stay Hot. But until then and until next time, as always, we will catch you on the flippity flop.